if you're a small business, the more you outsource, the more free you are to focus on your social media. The downside is everything you outsource, you're not outsourcing at cost. You're outsourcing as a profitable service for another business.
Yes.
So your customers are having to pay the profit that those businesses are charging in addition to the profit you're making on your product. So then the cost of the product goes through the roof. Long term, companies like Pan and DIY Detail and those companies that are doing that model, so you focus on your social media, outsource everything else, long term, they will have to bring that in. And if they can bring it in, then they can compete price wise. But at the moment, my biggest problem with these brands that are doing that is they're not competitive price wise at all. Every niche, if you go onto Instagram, a cooking program now will be infiltrated by an OnlyFans model that's not really, really a cook, but she's kind of half naked doing a cooking program. And the cook programs have got no chance to compete with a half naked.
Right.
Cook, you know?
I see what you're saying.
I enjoy criticizing. If a product, if there's nothing bad to say about it, it's like, what's the point in reviewing it?
Yeah.
If you can pick up things that you think aren't competitive with the product and could be improved, then I think that's really good. And I just love criticizing. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's fun.
All right. So let's start at the beginning. Why did you start a YouTube channel? And then how did it develop?
I wanted a complete change of career. I was, I think about 36, 37 years old, living in the city, London, the equivalent of kind of New York. And I wanted out of the big city, the equivalent of moving somewhere like South Carolina or just getting away from London and going back to where I was brought up and doing something not involving computers, something not sedentary, you know, something that I loved. And it wasn't initially for me detailing. Detailing was just, I don't know, we're talking about 18 years ago or something like that. And detailing, I don't think it existed as it exists now. So I never thought I was ever going to get into detailing or any of that sort of stuff. My passion was cars, and detailing was a means of getting cars nice. And for me, it was collision repair, funnily enough. A friend of mine, good friend of mine still today, him and his brother were into repairing cars, and they would buy smashed up cars from Copart and places like that, and performance cars, and try and repair them and sell them. And I remember this guy one day was chatting to me about a RX-8, Mazda RX-8 that he was trying to sell, but the guy didn't want to buy it because it was covered in swirls, and he didn't understand what that meant or why that was a problem. So I kind of said, well, show me. I went and had a look at this RX-8, and it was filthy dirty and covered in swirls. And I said, well, give me the car and I'll sort it out for you. And I'll bring it back over for you tomorrow, and I can make it better. So, you know, I clayed it down, polished it, gave it back to him, and he sold the car, and he was really happy. And after that, it was like, well, you know, could you do another one for us? And slowly but surely, I started helping them repair the cars and taking on some of the projects myself and buying my own kind of repair projects. And that is what got me started into detailing, and started because we were having loads of paint work done as well on cars. It was cheaper if we got just a gun finish and we'd mop it ourselves. So I was doing more and more polishing and wanting to get better at polishing. I didn't really know what I was doing to start with. I was just smashing the car with a rotary polisher and a cheap product called VN Compound, just smashing it. And after I'd smashed it, that would get rid of the swirls, and I'd go and wax it. But I thought I was brilliant at it, you know, until I started discovering detailing and all these different types of machine polishers and all these different products, and this whole very, very cool world of all these different brands I'd never heard of before.
Before we get back into the video, I want to invite you to check out the JIMBO's detailing line of products, what I think are the best products on the face of the earth. We have Toughest Shell, which is a ceramic spray coating, super easy to use, doesn't streak, can be used on every surface. We have Pure Magic Cleaner, which is an acid-based cleaner, which is phenomenal for wheel cleaning, water spot removal. We have the Super Soaper, which is a semi-touchless car wash soap. And we have the Complete Cabin Cleaner, which is the new interior cleaner. You can check out all these products at jimbosdetailing.com. And if you use code YouTube, you're gonna save 20% on the entire line of products. Back to the video.
And it's addictive, isn't it? I mean, you've been around this as long as I have. In fact, even longer. Your channel, how long has it been going for?
Well, so this is embarrassing to admit, but I signed up for my YouTube channel in 2006, October 2006. But I was just getting out of high school at that point. The internet was very early. So I did absolutely nothing with it until 2014 when I started this podcast. And I would just throw up audio only with a static image. And it really wasn't until I started interviewing YouTubers in like maybe 2018, 2017 that I started actually like being like, oh my gosh, this might be a viable way to like make some side money, you know?
Yeah.
So about,
you've been doing it as long as anyone, basically.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm a little embarrassed to say that, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and we all fall into it, don't we? No one ever thinks I'm going to be a YouTuber. You fall into it. One day you think I might just put some content up. It's really easy to upload some content. That's kind of what happened with me. Is I discovered this detailing scene. I thought it was really cool.
Through forums, or how did you discover it? Did you discover it through forums, or like what was your first?
I used to search for solutions to problems, and I'd always get a Detailing World return thing would come up, or an Auto Geek forum entry, or a YouTube return, and then you read those solutions and follow them, and most of the time they were really, really good. So then I started joining Facebook groups, and this is at the time where I was doing more and more machine polishing, I'd say. And I thought I want to do more than just be a member of these Facebook groups. I want to do a bit of reviewing. So I did some like product reviews, my first ones, where you take a photo of something and you put it on the Facebook group and you give an opinion on it. But I quickly realized that perhaps Facebook, it's not the best platform. You have no control over someone else's group. If that group gets shut down, all of those reviews you've done, just a complete waste of time, because they'll just disappear. So I thought I need to come off Facebook or create my own Facebook group and control the venue. So that was the first start for me of, well, maybe I could do some stuff on YouTube.
What were you doing? What were you? I call this the show of tangents as well. So I'm trying to not go off on a tangent, but the question like screaming in my head is, what was your job in London?
Well, it was a technical role. I'm under NDA, so I can't go into all of it. It's nothing too James Bondy. In fact, really boring, but it was working for a large corporation.
Okay. Doing IT kind of IT work. Okay. Got it. Yeah. So the reason why I thought you had mentioned IT. So like was because for a lot of people like that jump, you made it sound very seamless for you to like just go on Facebook and post and forums and blah, 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 blah. But sometimes that's a big hurdle for people. Do you think that IT background kind of helped you? Or did you still feel like it was a learning curve to like get started online?
I'd done so many different things in my job. I'd done training. I was used to standing up and talking to people. So I never had a problem talking. So
me neither.
Once that camera fires up and you get used to staring at a camera and talking to yourself, eventually you get past that bit and your personality starts coming through. And then after a year of doing it, it's second nature, and you just go into autopilot. So yeah, it took about a year to get out of that kind of wooden presenting mode, but I loved it. I loved the process of filming content, and almost immediately after, I would say about a year of throwing videos up on YouTube, things were starting to happen that were great. I'd made contact with the guys from the Pro Detailers magazine in the UK, and got involved in working with them and doing some testing with them. And we'd go to companies like Auto Glim over in the UK and do these big mega tests, they call them, where we test products, which is kind of what I was doing. And it was a real eye-opener, and seeing how the companies would test in labs and all that sort of stuff. And I was like a kid in a sweet shop just trying to steal as much of what they were doing as I could, because I thought, if I do what they do, it will actually make me look good. You know,
what were they doing, like, specifically? Do you remember the first time you saw like them testing? What kind of tests were they doing that made you want to like grab it?
Well, the gloss meter stuff. So they had a whole series of test panels that they'd all have made up, still test panels painted with paint clear coat.
Sure.
And they would test them with gloss meters and what's the color meter, the gradient thing, spectrometers.
Okay.
So they could measure changing color and changing gloss. And I didn't even know those machines existed. So I'm like, I'm quietly trying to like write down the back of my hand the name of their gloss meter.
Search on Amazon to find it later.
And when you can't find that equipment because it's so expensive and it's not online, you know, like it was really expensive, and it was like, oh, I'm not going to be able to get one of those. But yeah, there's a cheap version on Amazon that's like 150 quid.
Right.
Or it just gives you the same number every time. You know?
Right.
But that's, so I mean, I'd done that testing with them, and literally as soon as I got home, I was buying the steel plates up, having them painted, buying a cheap gloss meter, and just using those little methods we'd use to test wax. And that just took me from the bottom of the ladder to one step on the ladder, where someone might watch the video and think, oh, look, he's doing some test with a little box that's telling me how shiny it is. And it gives you a little bit of like credibility that it's not just like an opinion. So that was the start for me, being able to be inspired or copy.
What I remember back in the day watching some of your early videos and just being really like mesmerized by like how technical I felt like you were, and how much knowledge you were kind of presenting. And I felt like a lot of the credibility that I've thought towards you as well is because your name was Forensic Detailing, right? And I'm like, man, this guy must be really like going in deep for this stuff. And then I watched the videos and you were, and I was like, wow, this is incredible.
I think I always wanted to give reasons and show why the stuff we were recommending was going to be good. Mm-hmm. So I thought Forensic Detailing was a good name. I didn't think too much about it. I thought, yeah, that'll do. I actually called it Forensic Evaluations to start with. I thought that sounds a bit weird.
Yeah, it doesn't quite have the ring, huh?
No, so I changed it. But yeah, that was just the thing. But I didn't really have a clue what I was doing when I started it. And, I was green, very green with all this detailing, product testing.
What year was this, you think, just to put some more context to it? Right around that 18, 19?
2016, I'd say, was the first year of really doing stuff. So
the way you made money was working at the auto body place or the collision center, or kind of flipping cars, detailing the flip cars.
Yeah,
making money at the time?
I wasn't making any money off YouTube. I didn't even know you could make money on YouTube. So I was really making money from the car thing and getting paid to turn these cars around. It wasn't much money, but I didn't need much money really. It was just more a fun kind of thing. But it ended up becoming a possible kind of career. But that went south because more and more people got into doing that, and the prices for buying salvage in the UK just shot through the roof. So buy a project car, it might be worth £7,000 once you've repaired it, but you'd end up having to pay £5,000 plus fees, and there was no money in it.
Right.
So that's when I started getting more into detailing, and I had the black van at the start of the channel, and I used to use that to drive around the country and buy parts to do the repairs. But I had all my detailing gear in there as well. And that's at the point where I thought, well, maybe I could do detailing. I could maybe just do detailing as a sideline, do it mobile with the van. Mm-hmm. But I realized very quickly that I didn't want to do that. I really, really did not enjoy it. Like I could do one car, and if it's a car that I like and I've got time, I enjoyed it. If it's a normal car, I hated it. And I hated if I had to do one detail, then do one the next day.
Yeah.
absolutely killed any enjoyment for me. And just feeling like you're rushing was horrible.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought, I don't want to do this for a career. The money's not great, and it's horrible in the UK. So the channel could be like a little sideline, and maybe it will grow and it will take off, and maybe it won't. And it didn't take off at first. It was just like a dust ball of nothingness, you know, just talking to yourself. But slowly but surely, you discover, and you get those little videos that sort of spike and go viral. And you think, oh. And you build up a repertoire of what might go viral, and you start learning. It's different now, isn't it? You know, now we all know what goes viral, and you could just do the cheesy stuff and you got much more chance to go viral. No one knew back then, though, did they?
Yeah, you're 100% right. But I will say that I think, like, though you kind of know the things that go viral now, it almost is less effective than it used to be, right? So, it's like, tough, you can, because like you said, it's cheesy, right? And so everyone knows it's cheesy, and then there's no substance to it, right? And so it's like, yeah, it's
you've got to have a bit of cheese, but it's like getting the cheese level right.
Yeah,
it's difficult.
Yes, and I think it helps to like be around for a while, because people will like realize when you're being a little cheesy, like on purpose, you know. But was there a moment that you realized, like, oh man, like, because it seems like, so your YouTube channel is kind of rising as the collisions kind of coming down, and then mobile is very different in the UK than I think it is in the US, right? Like, but even then, mobile, for all the reasons you mentioned, mobile's tough, you know.
Yeah, it's cold and it's wet here for about half the year, and it's just not pleasant. And even if you have a studio, it's not pleasant in the UK to detail in the winter months. It's freezing. So yeah, I was just plowing on with the channel really, but noticing at this point, after a couple of years, I was monetized and probably making about 500 quid off the channel or something like that. And then at that point, I was sort of researching more things on YouTube about like how to make more money doing YouTube, and, you know, use affiliate links, set up the Patreon page, that sort of thing, and get the channel better. So I started doing proper thumbnails in black and white with lots of color. I started researching my videos. I tried to improve the production and do more cheesy videos. And yeah, it went from like £500 a month slowly up to maybe sort of £1,500 a month or something like that. And then I'm at the point where it's like, yeah, this can be a full-time thing. This definitely can. I was just lucky to get in there really, really, really early. It was a niche back then. It was exciting. Now it's, you know, you've seen what it's like. There's millions of detailing channels, and it's very difficult on YouTube because all of the niches within detailing, every little viral gold mine, you know, has been filled. So you're really repeating content, looking to perhaps tap into some of those viral wells and get a good ranked video high up that could do well. But most of those wells have been well and truly mined of gold now. So it's hard. It's like now the next 5 years is really gonna sort of test everyone that's doing detailing, I think, because it is slow, isn't it? So slow.
It is. And this is actually a common theme that I've been kind of, you know, I've struggled with it myself, and that's why I've kind of not resorted back to, but at trying a different angle with doing these like video podcasts. Because for me, I'm with you. I really enjoy just talking to the camera by myself. And when I take away the camera and I just talking to the microphone by myself, that's probably the ultimate. But second to that, I love talking to other people and kind of sharing, you know, just having a conversation. And so that's kind of been my.
You've got another career there, I think.
I hope I've been doing it 10 years. You know, people are like,
very good. I was doing some kind of research and watching the podcast just to see what the kind of flavor of it is. Very good, very interesting. It's not easy. You've got to keep it moving and kind of like all that sort of stuff.
You do. And like I told you before we started recording, it is highly dependent upon the guests. Like if they can talk, then because it's kind of cliche to say, but like it is kind of a dance, right? A conversation is really kind of a dance. And when, you know, I ask kind of a probing question, if I were to say, hey, John, what'd you do like before, you know, your YouTube channel? And you were just like, well, I worked in London and then I moved to the country. it'd be like, okay, you know what I mean? But like you were able to tell the story. So being able to tell the story and have your guests tell the story is like, you know, makes me look better. And I love to talk too. So one thing that's probably the hardest part about this whole thing for me every time is to let you guys talk, let the guests talk, because
it's good, isn't it? It's a conversation. Yeah, it's a two-way thing. It's good.
It is.
And then it flows. Yeah. And that's, it's good talking to YouTubers because, you know, you've gone through the same kind of process and you just get familiar and comfortable with talking to a camera. It's like second nature.
What do you think though, because you mentioned it and I've been thinking a lot about it and trying to figure it out. And I think there's some other channels that are bigger channels that are kind of struggling, trying to figure it out. But like, where do you think the content thing is going? Because all those kind of niches have been kind of met. There's people doing barn finds. There's people doing, you know, finding junky cars and restoring them. Like there's every flavor of detailing on the internet. And it seems like it doesn't matter how many subscribers you have anymore. Sometimes that could actually be detrimental to a channel. It seems like, I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out as well. But what are you kind of, what are your thoughts around current content in the future? How are you kind of keeping your channel fresh and extra cheesy?
I'm struggling, but I think it's all going to short format. It's going the way of short format. YouTube is having to compete with the other platforms that, you know, so most people are consuming the content now on their phones. So, and shorts is not really competing well with Instagram and TikTok. If you've ever content on all three, I don't know if you're on those other platforms.
I do. Yeah.
They take much better on those other platforms than they do on YouTube. It takes like a month for it to go viral on YouTube. YouTube has one advantage, that it's better. It's got better monetization for content creators, but the other platforms are catching up on that now. So I think YouTube is losing content creators. It's trying to promote itself as a easier platform to make content on. When you started doing this, if you wanted to be a YouTuber, you had to go and get a proper camera. You had to have editing software. You had to make all this complicated stuff and upload it on there. It's so much effort. Compared to if you go onto TikTok now, you'll see someone dancing, you know, to a jig, and you could press the remix button and then record yourself dancing to the same jig and upload it within 10 seconds and all this viral trend stuff. So YouTube is now trying to latch on to that viral trend, but it's missed the boat a little bit. But it's tough for we're niche content creators. Detailing is a tiny niche within the field, and YouTube is directing most of its views towards the popular stuff that the vast majority of people that watch YouTube,
politics or something like that.
Yeah, or just even cheesier stuff. Like every niche, if you go onto Instagram, a cooking program now will be infiltrated by an OnlyFans model that's not really, really a cook, but she's kind of half naked doing a cooking program. And the cook programs have got no chance to compete with a half naked cook, you know?
I see what you're saying.
So it's all going cheese. It's all going full cheese.
So have you ever thought about like detailing without a shirt on just to see how it does?
Well, it's not going to work for me. It might work for you, Jim.
It might be the best. I'll lose the best thing for you. I would say it could be. People say, "Oh man, that's a horrible idea." I'm like, man, like breaking my arm or being made fun of could be the best possible thing for my channel. You know, I don't.
It could be. I mean, it's good. It's something like that. It's what the future for detailing on YouTube will be. The disaster details and all that sort of stuff, I think, are going to carry on being popular because they're good, you know, mass kind of market stuff. But the interest, I think, is starting to die off a little bit on that. The sort of tutorial side of YouTube has been done so many times. So there's about 5,000 guides out there on how to polish a car from different people. Really, we're all sort of saying the same thing. You know, get the polish on the pad and get going. So that side of it's going to die out. So really, I think it's going to come down to following viral trends within the detailing niche that's going to be the way forward. But it's no fun doing that as a content creator. Going viral as a content creator is the most horrid experience ever, because you suddenly get all these people that have got nothing to do with detailing suddenly being presented with this and watching your video, and it's just it's not pleasant. The most pleasant experience of doing social media is building a really good audience of people that dig it and love it. And it might be a smaller niche. Then actually making content and talking to the audience is good fun. So I think, you know, for guys like us doing this, I think we've probably got to settle with the fact it's always going to be quite niche. But as long as we dig doing it and it's fun, then yeah, you know, I'll carry on doing it till it's not fun. But I'm loving it at the moment, you know.
It's awesome. How do you pick what products you want? Like how do you pick what products you want to test or review? Is it just kind of like whatever you see? It's probably a mix of things, but like, how do you decide what video you want to do? What is your creative process kind of look like?
You've got to follow the drama with the products. You've got to follow the next thing. So like for me, one thing I'd love to do is all of the American brands like that you've got, like you've got JIMBO's spray. You can't get it in the UK yet. Well, I'll ask you about that later on. You know, and compare it with all the other American ones. Pan the Organizer.
Spoiler alert, I smoke them.
Oh, do you?
I don't know. I'm just trying to create drama.
But that's the sort of thing. I tell you what, I've been seeing all these brands start over in America. That keeps things fresher because in the UK, there's not a lot going on brand wise. So you've got new brands coming through. You've got this. This is an interesting thing to talk about. It's the new brand owner is now the influencer. So
yeah, what are your thoughts? So a great topic to bring up, because I think what kind of ushered in this interesting era of content that we're in was the lack of innovation by the big dogs, especially during COVID or any brand. Like, you know, we just talked before we started recording, we met in person at the Turtle Wax event in, I think it was 2019, like right before COVID. Right. And so, but man, if I think back, and maybe you have a different perspective, but like, it felt like there was so much innovation coming and going and brands were doing things. And like, there were so many products and content was fresh. And then COVID hit and it was like, hit the brakes on everything. And there was like nothing. And I remember during that time being like, oh my gosh, there's nothing to like do any content on, you know? And so
it was exactly like that. Everyone was indoors wanting there to be content, but the industry kind of shut down almost. And most industries kind of went on pause, even though they were selling tons of product. There was no innovation because no one was in the office, you know, no one was working really. So that had a big impact. But even since COVID, really, in the UK side of things, I can't think of anything really interesting going on. Much kind of like innovation, products that are really different. We're kind of where we were 10 years ago. About 10 years ago, I was doing my first mega test with Pro Detailers, and they sent me 75 spray sealants, all turned up in my you know, in the garage, 75 of them. I was just like looking at them thinking, well, how am I going to test these? You know, how? And now I'm building up to do another one, and I'm looking and I'm thinking, hold on, I've done that one before. I've done that one before. I've done that one before. And to be fair, some of those ones back then, 10 years ago, are probably still as good. So I am really interested to see all of the stuff that's going on over there. I really want to try the hardest shell. I want to try it and see what it's like and get it down on the panel.
I'll get some over to you.
But I want to do like the best of the American New Kids on the Block or something cheesy.
What is your opinion from like looking from the UK over here? Like, what is kind of your opinion of what these, like myself included, right, influencers becoming brand owners? Is it what's your perspective on it? And be honest, you know, if you think it's the stupidest thing ever, you know.
I think it's brave because it's you're going to get some choppy waters. You're going to get some hate. You're going to get naysayers. You're going to get negativity. I wouldn't do it because the stress of having that business and that side of the business, I just wouldn't do it. But also it would be really difficult for me because a lot of the content that I'm doing is very competitive. When you're testing like 10 products against each other, it's really competitive.
Mm-hmm.
And I think some of the brands that aren't winning those are kind of looking to stick the boot into me. And if I had a forensics detailing product in that lineup, I would just be a sitting duck, you know. And maybe to a certain extent, rightly so, I couldn't put it in. I couldn't compare my product with 10 others. So you'll be going through this. You've got to make changes to the channel. You can still look at products and talk about it, but I think you have to be really careful when you're comparing your product to other products. And that's the new gray area, isn't it?
Yeah, it puts a huge target on your back. And one thing that I've kind of really scaled back from doing that, because I used to love doing torture tests. I mean, that was the most fun for me, right? But what I realized was it puts because people feel like it's unfair, right? Even though I could, you know, say it till I'm blue in the face, hey, this is just for fun. This isn't real world. This isn't, you know, that doesn't mean that the product absolutely sucks. It just is one way to test products, right? But what I realized is that, you know, people perceive that. Some people love it, some people appreciate it, some people hate it, and it makes them despise me, right? And so when I came out with my own line,
they'll be burner accounts though. They won't be real people. They'll be people with a dog in the race.
Yeah, very true, right? But what I realized when I launched my own brand and have a little bit more perspective, because it's been a whole year now, but I realized like it brings on unnecessary trauma almost to my own brand of like, you know, because when you're making a product, it's like you have all these boxes that you want to check, right? You want it durable, you want it easy to use, you want it to bead water like crazy, but you want it to sheet water at the same time. You want it to be everyone's favorite, and you want it to be all these things that it's really impossible. You just can't have it that way, right?
Yeah.
And so you have to, at least what I've kind of reduced it down to is like, I have to pick my like top 5 attributes that I want of the product and then stick with those, right? And then you take you know, there's some feedback, and there's even feedback I'm dealing with right now where a guy, you know, doesn't think the product's lasting as long as he thinks it should last, you know, and he's in a brutal climate and it's gone, I don't know, 3 months or so. And, you know, he's pissed about it. And I'm like, okay, well, I feel bad, you know, and at the same time, it's like, but I have 3,000 other people that are having tremendous success with it. So do I look at rechanging the formula for this one person, or do I just keep going with the 3,000 that are happy with it? You know?
But I remember talking to Turtle Wax about this, that they were keeping a close eye on how we're testing products and almost changing the way they're formulating products so that they'll be good at the way we test them. So like you could change your product so that it beads loads, and then the more it beads, the more it's going to demonstrate that bead even when it's degraded, so it'll look better if it's more hydrophobic. You could make it more durable, but ultimately you could make the product worse, so that it looks better in reviews. I think you just got to go with your gut instinct and tell people what it won't do. And I think people, when they watch content, especially if it's a brand, because it's unusual for a brand to ever tell you what their product doesn't do. When people hear that, they're like, oh, right, fair enough. I don't think durability's too important for me, but it seems to be really important for people that watch the channel. And if a product, if I'm doing a demonstration or a test of like 10 panels, 10 products on a test panel, and one of them is still going after, you know, 2 weeks or saying the rest of them are flat and I've been hitting them with chemicals, they'll buy that one. Because it's like, oh, it's got to be better because it's still going. But I don't always use those ones. I use the ones that tend to work best for me on a black car that will go on without giving me too much hassle. And we will just melt into the paint quick and easy. And it takes me 5 minutes to go in a car and spray it on and buff it off.
Totally. Well, that's the seal and shine debacle from, you know, many years ago. People saying it, you know, the product does phenomenal in a test and people love it, but in real life, right, it's a little streaky sometimes. And I used to joke with Turtle Wax all the time, like, you guys got to dilute this a little bit or something, make it a little more user friendly, right? Because but in a torture test, it does phenomenal. But then in real life, what's that?
It's very impressive.
Very impressive.
Someone was messaging me about it, or in the comments saying it's 22 quid for 5 litres of it in the UK, which is so cheap.
So cheap.
It is really cheap, isn't it? I did a video ages ago that saying like, why are Turtle Wax giving this away? Because they're literally giving this product away.
Because it wasn't selling. That's what it came. That's what I found out later. Was it like for us at Walmart, it was $5, which is, you know, like, how do they even make any money? You know, I always joke like there's only so many dollars and $5, right? Like, and so but I don't think it was selling, and so they were trying to get rid of it, and then people started doing videos on it, and they're like, oh my gosh, this stuff's actually good. And then they started selling, and they're like, it is good. It checks a certain box. And I think that's where people need to, like your example with the torture test too. It's like the one that does the best in the torture test doesn't necessarily mean that's the best product for everyone.
Yeah.
Right. Because I'm with you. I want something that's going to, you know, have good gloss, but at the end of the day, I want it to be really dummy proof. I don't want it to streak at all.
Yeah, you want it to work like a sealant, but go on like a quick detailer.
Exactly.
I think that slickness when you buff it out is really, people want that
yes
as well. But I think also people do want it. They don't want it to just wash away. So they want to see that hydrophobicity, and they want at least like 4 or 5 washes over a period of 2 or 3 months.
Absolutely.
To still see it on there. And then after maybe 2 or 3 months, it's like, right, it's just sheeting off now. I'll wax some more on.
Yeah, because
that's what I do with it, you know.
That's exactly what I aimed.
Products have taken over. You know, you could go with the ceramic coatings, which will get you years. You could go with these non-water-based ceramic spray sealants that are, you know, the lightweight ceramics.
Mm-hmm.
I think these water-based products have taken over now as cut from car waxes. They've taken over from everything, and we all love them because they're just so easy to use.
They're so easy to use, and they don't smell like, I remember the heavy solvent sprays when like the sprays first came out, you know, and they smell up your whole garage, and it's kind of, it's like, man, do they work really well? It's like, I think of, you know, Can Coat, right? Like Can Coat works really good, but to me, it's just too smelly, you know. Well, it's like,
it's a lightweight ceramic, isn't it?
Yes.
You know, that is got, I think it's got ceramic stuff in it. And yeah, you've got to be careful with it. You'd probably want to glove up and spray it into the applicator and get it on there. That, you know, I prefer a water-based product. You know, I would use the Geon wet coat or their ceramic detailer, just because I find those products just a bit more casual, you know. But maybe as a professional service, you know, this is something you've got to go through. You've got to look at what products you're going to offer. And have you got a ceramic coating?
I do. Yes. It's called the Gloss Boss. We'll talk after, and I'll get you a couple things that you could test and be honest about. And, you know, if you need me to pay you on the back end, I'll pay you on the back end to say good things, and no one will know.
Checks in the post.
Shit, we're recording.
Little brown envelope sticking out my pocket.
Yes, of course. Yes.
But you've thought about
how,
you've had to, as a brand, think about, what am I going to do? Because you don't want 500 products either. It's like, what's the best thing to do? Well, I've got to have a coating. I'm going to need a coating. Well, I haven't got a coating. I'm missing out on that whole coating market. Then what's my consumer sort of product going to be for the guys that don't want coatings? And spray sealant's probably the way to go. But yeah, I mean, how many products you got in your range?
I have, I think 6 now.
So it's early days for you as well.
Very early. Yeah. I really wanted to start. So I did a lot of private labeling too, like on the back end for other brands. And I saw like the most successful brands, the most successful startup brands I saw really only launched with like a couple products, and then slowly kind of trickled out more products.
That's
instead
the best
of
way to do it. Yeah.
I think so.
Because you can, each product, then you can create a little bit of hype around it. Whereas if you start with a range of 20 or 30,
you can't support it. It's too hard to support, you know?
Yeah.
And people get confused. And that's one thing I've always seen too, is like when people get confused, consumers or potential customers get confused, they do nothing. And so I wanted to make it very clear of like, hey, so I launched with only 2 products. And it also helps from a cash flow standpoint. Like I don't have a money backer at all. I'm cash flowing all this myself. And so it also helps with the cash flow to not have so many products all at once. But over the year, I think I went a little too fast this year, having 6 products, But what I realized was, and this is where a brand like Chemical Guys kind of started to make more sense to me, is like you start to develop these loyal fans that want to use your products to do everything on the car. And then you're like, well, crap, I don't have an interior cleaner. So now I'm like this, I'm recommending them to use another product brand, but I'd really just rather sell them my own brand. Right. And so that becomes a whole nother thing of like, or you know, so that's kind of what I'm juggling with right now, is like I want to have each product have a purpose, and I want to give adequate, you know, content coverage to each product, because I've been struggling with the content thing too, right? Of like, how do I differentiate myself? You know, and so part of differentiating myself is like, hey, well, I have this product brand. I just don't want to do tutorial videos because that's very boring for me. I don't enjoy making those. And so, but what I do enjoy is like showing the development of a product, and then like showing samples that don't work, showing samples that do work with certain things, but not with others. And so that's kind of what I'm trying to focus on for my brand. You know?
You've, like when you mentioned Chemical Guys, they were like the first brand that went from being a, you know, a similar sort of thing, a guy starting up a detailing company, probably offering a handful of products, to now having like 5,000 products, or however many they've got over there. But I think what they've realized, and this is, I think, something, if I was starting a brand, I'd be really conscious of, is I think Chemical Guys have realized people buy their products once and then want to try something else. They want to try the Adams one. They want to try the Griots ceramic next. They won't buy, or generally they won't buy the Chemical Guys ceramic spray and then buy it again and buy it again and buy it again. So what they do is they keep bolting on new ranges to their brand so that people try it. And I think brands can fall into this trap of putting themselves in a position where you're only going to get one opportunity to sell the product, and then they're going to move on to the next new brand. And I've seen it in the UK. Brands, I was talking about this in a video. Brands have started up in the UK, you know, maybe 10 years ago or something, had success, and then, you know, faded away, and realized that they could, the best bet is to start another brand. And then, you know,
do you think it's because the liquid, like the Chemical Guys are a UK brand? Do you think it's the liquid in the bottle, and so like the cut, you know, it has a lot of hype, and then the customer's excited about it, buys into the hype, tries the product, and then they're disappointed in the product? Do you think that's what it is, or why don't they repurchase?
I think it's just people love trying detailing products, and they'll say that, oh, I don't want to try this one, it's all hype, it's all hype. They do want to try it, they really do. And they want it to be good, and they'll try it. People will try it. This is a fun, these are like, you get to sort of 30 or 40 in life, you've done all your drinking, you've done all your night clubbing, and then like this becomes the sort of habit you get before you become infatuated with power tools, like this detailing stuff. So like, people just want to try stuff no matter what they say. And I think if you can sort of work out how people work, you could do very well. But I think it's very difficult to get return sales with detailing. That's the tough thing. And if you can solve that, Jim, I think you'll be laughing.
That's what I've really tried to focus on, because I realized that too with my private label clients, because I worked at the chemical manufacturer that excuse me, that made a lot of the Chemical Guys products. And I started working there in 2016, and kind of saw, how the sausage was made, you know, and really kind of pulled the curtain back. And I was like, wow, this is interesting. And then I had this thought of like, kind of this thought that you're talking about, like, wouldn't it be so much better to sell to the same customer over and over and over again? Because I was running a mobile detailing business, and I thought, well, and how it worked in my mobile detailing business is if I went somewhere every Tuesday, right, and made a couple $100, that was a lot better than trying to get a new customer to fill that void every Tuesday, right? And so I saw that with Chemical Guys and some other smaller brands of like, they're just constantly releasing new products. But what if you had a good liquid in the bottle, and then you could sell to I could sell to John over and over and over and over and over, and he'd always come back. And like, then you could grow, maybe it'd be a smaller pie, right? But you'd grow it more loyal following, just like a YouTube audience, right? And so that's my main focus, is like just growing, you know, coming out with quality products that people want to use over and over and over. And it goes down to everything of like, what's the customer journey like when they make a purchase, and how is it packaged? And you see all these Facebook groups of, damage is going to happen in shipping no matter what, because the postal service uses these packages like footballs all the time. And so it's going to happen, like breakage is going to happen, but like
you put them in bags now, because they've had to start doing that in the UK, because they'll just crack open, at least it's down the bag, it kind of doesn't leak.
But it's amazing how many brands don't, right? So yeah, mine are double sealed in a bag, wrapped in paper with extra paper. I mean, I try to really package them up and probably overdo it most of the time. But like I see some of these brands where you get a package from Amazon and it's like in there with one piece of bubble, and you're like, how did this gallon make it? Like with one little bubble air thing,
This is another reason I could never do this, because you're doing all this kind of dispatch stuff yourself, aren't you? You're shipping your own orders. So you're going to have to deal with people that get your product, will smash the bottle, decant it into another bottle, and then send you a picture of it all smashed up so they can get another bottle as well.
Which I will say, at least for the past year since I've been doing it, it's very few and far between so far. But there's definitely been some people, I could count them on one hand, that I'm like, you just want it? Like, are you just looking for free product? Which I'd much rather just have them say, hey, look, I really like your product. Could you send me some for free? Because more times than not, I'd probably send it to them. Right. But like, I will say it is very few and far between that it happens, but it definitely happens. And it's like, okay, do you want your money? And then it's that game, right? Like, do you want your money back because you need money, or do you want more product? And then I don't know. I take a very different approach than most people. It's like, look, I just probably to a fault, I just give people what they want, right? Like, just tell me what you want and I'll give it to you. And like, one of my things is I have a lifetime guarantee on all my products, because I just feel like if you don't like it, I don't want it on your shelf, right? Because you don't want it on your shelf. So like, I'll just return it and I'll give you your money back or whatever.
I think it's the best way to do it, isn't it? It's the easiest way to do it.
It's the easiest way.
A little percentage that you have to lose for that. It's like but it's a quality assurance thing, isn't it? It's a good idea.
The cost of doing business, right? It's like people that complain about the credit card fee. It's like, it is. What are you going to do? Not take credit cards, I guess. And you could do that, but it kind of is what it is. It's just the cost of doing business, So
you still enjoy it though. I one thing I've not seen you delve into is the disaster detail stuff. Are you tempted to?
I can't do
try
it.
That?
No, I tempted. Yes. However, I was a mobile detailer from 2008 to 2016. I think I got my first shop, garage. And in the very beginning, I did disaster details. That was just called work, right? And I have so much PTSD from doing those and being paid so little to do them and doing it for so long that I'm like, I know there's probably a ton of money in ad revenue for doing them. I'm just like, people don't know how much work that is and how grueling it is and exhausting it is. And it's like, and then you got to film on top of it.
Yeah. It's a lot of work, and it's so much great work when they go viral. It's amazing. Like, I've had a couple. I remember that was my first experience of ever going viral. It was just some red car that someone on the street owned that they were going to bin because it had gone like pink. And I volunteered to sort it out for them. I wasn't even going to film it. And it was just an afterthought to grab some footage. And I posted it up, and the video just sat there. And then like a week later, it went poof. And at that point, the sort of penny dropped. I thought, wow, people actually want to see cars that are turned around where you can really see the visual difference. I think people don't actually want to see detailing as much. So really good detailing, like channels like White Details, top class detailing. You will not, if you want to see detailing at its finest, go and watch Jim White do his thing on cars. But the problem is, I think on the cars look good on camera before you even start polishing them. And I've noticed this with videos that I thought, this is a really good detailing video that I've done. And they flopped because there isn't that transformation. So people love seeing a thumbnail of an absolutely battered, filthy car that can't be cleaned. And then they really enjoy that process of seeing it cleaned. But I don't know.
The problem is you got to do the process, right? And someone has to do it.
Yeah, it's
and
horrible work.
It's horrible work. Are you more tempted? Are you going that route for your channel?
We just did one. Another part of the channel was about 3 or 4 years ago. I started doing videos with the local detailers, Fresh Layers up the road. And I know Martin and the other guys, and we have a lot of fun. And we've had some good videos that we've done that have been really successful. And every now and then they'll say we've got one that's coming in that might make a good video, and I'll look at it. And if it's a really good car that's got that transformation potential, I'll try and we'll go in and film a video on it, like we just did one on the Honda Civic. It was a lot of work. I mean, you're filming going to the paint shop like 4 different times to go to the paint shop to get prep footage, spraying footage, and then 4 different times to the alloy wheel place to get the footage, dropping the alloy wheels off, get the footage of being dipped, get the footage of being prepped, get the pickup footage. Then probably about a week of filming in the studio, actually turning the car around, and we published it about 2 weeks ago. And it's doing all right. It's done like 60 or 70,000 views.
Okay, that's great.
Which is good, and it's growing, but it's not, that sort of views is not good enough for like the amount of work that's gone into that video. It needs to be like 200,000 views by now. So I'm seeing it's getting harder to go viral, and then I'm thinking, right, shall I just do more run-of-the-mill videos that are quicker for me, that I can do in my garage testing products that might do half the views but are a tenth of the work,
because you're shooting and editing everything yourself still.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, I think doing these video podcasts are like as easy as it gets, because there's virtually no editing to it, but people don't understand, like, those disaster details take so much work, and like you said, if it's not getting a couple 100,000 views, you're like, I'm paying money to do this. Like, this is insane.
If you actually go through and look at the revenue and then work it out and say, well, if I've put in about 30 hours in the edit and probably about 50 hours in the actual detail and traveling around, it's like 3 weeks work. My hourly rate there would be, I'd be on about 78p an hour, like, not even minimum wage, not even £10 an hour. So it's not viable, unfortunately, unless you're really striking gold every single time and going viral. And I don't think we don't have a lot of I think it's more an American thing. You guys have got the American disaster channels and they're doing great. We don't tend to have them over in the UK. So they don't take as well.
Yeah, it's interesting to me how, like, there's, even though it's a global platform, there are like definitely regional and local kind of things that work better. I think it seems like the UK though does have a great detailing YouTube scene.
They love, we've got a very strong, addicted detailing scene that love the product side, love the car side. I mean, we're car nuts in the UK. And of course, it's always wet and raining. So we love products that really clean the cars well and make our lives a bit easier.
Right.
But yeah, I think what we consume is different over content-wise in the UK. It's a different kind of audience as well to the American stuff. And sometimes that's why I like watching your channels, because I get to see a different scene, different products, different stuff going on, and it just makes it more interesting.
Have you tried any of the new, I guess we'll call them like influencer brands? Have you tested? And forgive me, I don't consume a lot of detailing content online. So if you're like, dude, I just posted a video, like, have you tried any of those yet? I've
just purchased 3 of the Pan the Organizer products.
Okay.
And I've tried one of them, and there's nothing really wrong with it. The shampoo.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong with it. It's a nice shampoo, but it's the cost per wash analysis, which I always do on the channel, which people don't like, or tell me they don't want to see. The cost per wash analysis is
the brands don't want to see it, or the viewers don't want to see it.
In the comments, they don't. Only 1 or 2, not hundreds. Tell me they're not interested in the price. And I was just thinking, well, I don't care. I've got to give you that information anyway.
Yeah.
That's the problem with those products, is the cost. And I talk about in the video. It's not an easy problem for brands to solve when you're starting out, but the cost difference in like the shampoo, Pan shampoo that I'm testing, cost per wash wise, I've got the figures in my head. £2.35 cost per wash versus 16p cost per wash of what I kind of recommended in my best shampoo video.
Okay.
So it's not 10 times the price. It's more than, is it more than 20? I don't know. No, it's about 15 times the price.
I don't do math live, so I'll take your word on it.
Something like that. 10 would be £1.60. So 20, about 20, 15 times the price. And then it's hard as a reviewer to kind of skirt around that. And how can that type of product get you that value?
Right.
It's only a shampoo. It's good, but most of them are good. So that's the difficult part of doing reviews. But you've got to be prepared to say it, I think. As long as you say it nice, you know.
Yeah, I think it's information, right? It's not, it is what it is, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's,
you think so.
Yeah,
you must have experienced the backlash every now and then. Like, you'll put a video out and you'll get a backlash from it. Like, you put it out, it's like, it's just a car product and it's not terrible or anything's bad, but you might say something and it's like you've lit a bomb and like.
I mean, I was doing a, you know, I had a pretty critical, not to beat a dead horse, but I had a pretty critical review of my product that I personally felt was unfair and unjust, right? And so when I was doing some digging on the person, I used this term that I didn't think was a big deal at all. And I was like, oh, they're just part of a circle jerk, right? And it like blew up to this insane thing. And I was like, that's so weird to me. It's just kind of like a phrase I would say, right? It's not a big deal. But especially with something with a car shampoo, it's like I built out my own car shampoo and I thought it was something very unique and it's cool and I like it. And it's basically a high pH in the bottle, but by the time you break it down and dilute it and foam it, the foam hitting the car is basically pH neutral, and it's a very good cleaning shampoo. I would call it a touchless or semi-touchless wash, right?
Yeah.
So
I think it's a good way to go, actually.
But it was difficult because how do you, like, if you go, I don't know if Pans is just pH neutral and just a normal thick pH neutral car shampoo, but it's like, it's very dime a dozen, right?
Yeah, it is. And I think, but he might be at the phase where this is just his first launch of some initial products. And then later on, you might get some stuff, you know, he'll probably have some things that he knows he needs to bring out. But
that's a whole angle, right? And people have no patience for that. They're like, oh my God, they ready to, you know, stick you to the pitchfork. And it's like, guys, I'm just building out the line. Like, give me a couple years, you know?
Yeah, I think, Rome wasn't built in the day with all of this stuff. And I think, but it is difficult. It's very difficult for American brands to do well in the UK. You know, there's a massive market in America. Like, the market is so much bigger. It's so much more like consumer friendly. It's less cynical. The UK market is so cynical. We we just don't want to try anything if it's expensive. Like, price is just such a fundamental thing in the UK. Everyone loves a bargain here. Whereas I think in America, like, you love a bargain, but you also are prepared to pay for things that you think are going to give you some value. And that's a big difference. And maybe my thoughts on all of these products. So I'm drilling in on price with this shampoo from brand and looking at it thinking, Jesus, this is way off market.
Right.
But the reality is the actual price in terms of the dollars that you're probably paying, it's only a few dollars more for the actual product. But it's that analysis on cost per wash and concentration and stuff, which really delves into it. It's difficult. It's really difficult though, because I mean, I've been doing this review stuff for a long time, and brands do not like criticism. They don't like it. They speak, I'm not talking about you here, but they speak a different language. And from a reviewer's point of view, a lot of the brands, they all speak the same language. And if you're saying things that are bad about their products, they take that as an attack rather than just an opinion. And it is all just an opinion on products, really.
Because it hurts sales. It has the potential to hurt sales, I think. And so that's oh gosh. And it's difficult playing both sides of it, right? Like having the brand and wanting the reviews, but only wanting the good reviews. But you actually need critical reviews, because how else is the industry going to progress forward. And I guess that's where I have this opinion that a lot of brands don't want to actually move the industry forward. They just want to say they want to move the industry forward. But I think like at SEMA, I'm very critical on brands that just add like a plus or a version 2 to their like product, because I'm like, that's not really innovation. Just calling it like easier to apply, I'm like, that's not an innovation, right? And so I don't know. I have this opinion that a lot of brands don't actually want to progress the industry forward because that would be detrimental to their own brand, right?
The business side of it comes first for a lot of brands. And it's like you say, anything that might potentially damage sales is the be all and end all. It sounds
I
weird.
Also understand, you know, I understand.
I enjoy criticizing in a good way. I like that. If there's nothing bad to say about it, it's like, what's the point in reviewing it?
Yeah.
If you can pick up things that you think aren't competitive with the product and could be improved,
right,
then I think that's really good. And I just love criticizing. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's fun. I just love it. Yeah.
Has there been a brand that you criticized really hard and they actually received it good and like revised the product or came back? Have you had that experience?
Yeah, loads. I'd say a good example of a brand that can take criticism really well would be like CarPro. Their labels are sometimes terrible. You know, they're a big brand, and sometimes they spell the product name wrong on the label. You know, like Multi-X was spelt Mullet X. Sometimes their trigger sprayers weren't good, and I know they've changed those. But lots of typos on CarPro's label, and I go in and criticize it. And sometimes I'll get a reply comment from them and it'll just be like, oh, thanks for the review. That's great. Yeah, we'll get that sorted. And they go and sort it. And they've never ever sent me like an email saying, hang on a minute, what are you doing here? They're always just like, you know, happy. So there's brands that just take it completely on the chin and you know, fix it straight away. I mean, I remember criticizing a PNS trigger because it was terrible. I got a email from Jeff, the distributor in the UK, just said, oh, I've just checked what you said. You're right. They are terrible. I've just changed them all. We won't send them out with that trigger anymore. And it's like, yeah, brilliant. That's the name of the game for me, that brands that actually just take that criticism, they don't have to agree. I could get a mail back from them and say, we've looked at that and we think you're wrong, so we're not going to do anything. Well, fair enough. But when they say we've looked at that, yeah, you're right. We've changed it. I'm like, great, I've done my job, and that's a really nice feeling. But like I say, not all of them can take it. I just don't care, really.
You complained
that's the beauty of not having a brand, and like, you know, how long is my shelf life doing YouTube? I might have another 5 years. So I like criticizing, and I'm just going to carry on doing it. And you know, and it's just done with no axe. I don't feel any emotion when I'm criticizing a product. There's no like, oh, I'm going to stick it to this brand. I never feel that. I just don't have that in me. It's always constructive, you know. So yeah.
I complained one time because when Meguiar's launched I think it's called their Ultimate Spray Ceramic, whatever. I get confused with all the names, but it was their new one. No, not that one. It was their small bottle. They just released it, I think last year or the year before. It's the Ultimate. I think it's called the Ultimate Ceramic Spray. I don't even know if it went overseas or not, but they had a QR code. Was it that, or was it their? I think it was that one, but they had a QR code on the bottle and it didn't work. Like you couldn't scan it. And it just blew my mind of like, how could a global brand like Meguiar's, like no one checked on this before they went to retail? Like I bought it on Amazon, right? And and I'm like, oh my gosh, it doesn't work. And instead of doing what you said with like CarPro or whatever, PNS, whatever, of being like, yeah, it doesn't work. Like we biffed, right? We messed up. They tried to argue with me over the curvature of the bottle and the placement of the QR code. And that the curvature, the placement of the QR code mixed with the curvature of the bottle made it so your phone couldn't scan it. And I was like, no,
it's not my problem.
It's like, no, it's still like, first of all, that's BS. It's just not true, right? Like how many menus have you had to scan at a restaurant that is on like the most awkward card or something? No. Second of all, no one checked it. Like no one printed it. Like print it on the printer, wrap it around, tape it on a label and or tape it on a bottle and scan it. Like that's insane to me, you know, like Yeah. In fact, that's for my product brand. It says Jimbo's at the top, but literally almost until I was ready to send the labels to the printer, the name was actually on the bottom of the label. And because I wanted to be different, right? And so, but I knew from my past experience that you always print out the label and you put it on a bottle and you look at it, right? How will it look on a shelf? I mean, it's very basic stuff. Like,
get someone else to look at it as well, because you could be really close to it and not see something, and someone else could do it, and it just blows my mind with what I've seen with labels and like the stuff that's wrong on them. I'm just like, holy cow!
And for
how
me,
the hell have you missed that? You know, it's just mind blowing. You know, dilution ratio is completely wrong for shampoos. You know, it's the one piece of information you got to get right, and it's wrong. Typos.
It's just insane.
Products, you know, you tip them over and squeeze them, and just flood, all the product comes pouring out of them, and things like that still go on, I think, because for lack of testing. Yeah, and that's great, because it's good for the channel to be able to.
It gives you content.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, because it creates a bit of a drama.
That is true. Yeah, go ahead.
It's not nice. So you don't want to. You want to sort of. You want them to take the criticism well, because you don't want any conflict with any of these brands. You know, no YouTuber wants that when you review. But for me, one of the things I've learned 10 years of doing this is just keep a bigger distance as you can from the industry, because that serves me really well. Just
not getting so stick the drama with the brands, not with other YouTubers. Is that what you're saying?
No, just keep a distance from the industry. Don't sort of have contact with the brands if you can.
Oh,
you know,
I see. Okay,
just get on with just doing the videos, because the more contact you have, I think, like Matt described from Obsessed Garage, he describes it well, and it creates a pressure. That's a very good way of putting it. Okay. Because when you start to know someone now, this is an example. I know you now. If I took your product,
I was just going to say,
it makes it more difficult for me to criticize it.
Of course.
Because I know you, and I'm going to think, oh, I'm going to upset Jimmy if I say this.
Right.
So, like, the more you could just not know anybody, the easier your job is. So it's difficult doing this.
Is that become so? Here's where I think it gets hard, though, because then you, like yourself, you start growing a following, right? Brands start offering things, or you come to the Turtle Wax event and they take care of everything. Like, it becomes more difficult.
I'll break the rules if they do another one of those Turtle Wax things again. I'll be there in my little swimming trunks and Lilo, ready to go in the pool.
Absolutely, right. And I was having this conversation with another guy, Sheepstar, who's a young, newer YouTuber, and he's very staunch on not, taking any money. He's never going to take any money. He's never going to take any. He's very, very direct and very hard on that line, which I admire. But I posed the question.
I mean, if you're starting out now and you don't want to take any money, don't do any promotion, that's good. And I think it's probably you should have intent like that. It's rare, isn't it? Most of people getting into this, it will become about money at some point, and that includes me. I need to make money doing this. This is my thing. But I don't know. There is a conflict of interest when money's involved, and like especially that sponsored stuff. I mean, for me, I do a little bit of sponsored content. I limit it, but a piece of sponsored content is just promotional. It's declared promotional. For my viewers, they might think that's kind of cheesy, but for me, it keeps the channel going. It's probably, without it, I'm not sure if I'd still be doing this over the last couple of years, but I'm probably going to tail it off, all that promotional stuff.
Do you think people are becoming more accepting of it, though? Because it's just like they understand, like, hey, look, I like John. I like his channel. Everyone's got to make money. Like, but there used to be this and maybe there still is, like this aggression towards people making money. And that's with the Sheepstar, what I really like. Yeah,
it was the other way around for me. I did like 4 years or 5 years of YouTube where I wasn't doing it. I didn't allow sponsored content. You know, there was some offers there to do it that were quite good. And I looked at them and thought, no, I'm not going to do any sponsored content. It wasn't until I started getting criticized for doing sponsored content when I wasn't doing it, then I thought, might as well do it then, might as well do some sponsored content. And by leaving it so long, it meant if I'd have done it in the first year, it might have been with like a sort of brand that my instincts weren't right about. And I was just like, it was an offer for money and I might have taken that. But then by leaving it for so long, where you get to a certain size, you can actually then kind of pick the brands and approach the brands you want to do sponsored content with. So for me, like doing sponsored content with a brand like Built Hamber is fantastic because I love the brand, and it just fits in. I was recommending it anyway. So it's like people were saying you're sponsored by them. And I'm like, I'm not, but I get why you think I am.
Right.
So it just kind of made sense for me. But yeah, I think, really, if you're doing review stuff and you're a hardcore review channel, then perhaps you shouldn't be doing any sponsored content. Maybe, I don't know.
What about main, like, for me, I was mainly doing reviews and then I start my own brand, right?
Have you done any sponsored content?
I have here and there, but for me, it was never ultimately why I started my own brand was because nothing was consistent, right? So like with sponsored content, it'd be like a one-off. I did a few things for Vonix, which I really like their products, Vonix from Brazil.
Yeah.
They actually have a trim coating that I still have on my car. And I did a section with it and without it and have done no topping, no treatment. And the spot I didn't do just looks absolutely horrendous. And the spot with the Vonix on it, on my little window crown, is still looking phenomenal. But it was like one video here, one video there, and it was never consistent. And so for me, it was like I started to not liking doing it at all because I'm like, okay, say you charge $500 or $1,000 or even whatever your number is, $15,000 for one video.
That'd be
ultimately
nice.
That'd be great, right?
I'll just do one video a year and then go on holiday for the rest of the year, I think.
But ultimately, it's just one video. Right.
Yeah,
and even if it sustains you a whole year, it's like by the time that year comes up, you got to do something. You got to feed the beast again, And so I was like, it's not consistent. At least for me, it wasn't consistent. Right. And my channel
No, I mean, for me, it's not either. I did have a sort of thing with Soft 99 where I was doing one video for a month.
Yeah.
And that was awesome. But it was only supposed to be for a year, but it worked out. We did it for about 2.5 years.
Okay.
Because it was good for them and it fitted in with the channel.
Great
that
products
was brilliant.
Too. Makes it easy.
Yeah, but now, like you say, an offer will come in. I only work with the same few brands, really. I don't tend to, do anything with other brands. I've done some stuff with Rupes, done some stuff with Gion, done some stuff with Soft 99, Vax. We did the turtle wax stuff, but they've gone kind of quiet for the last 3 or 4 years since the lady left. And a few, I haven't done anything with Built Hamber for ages either. But you can only do so much really when you're forcing the sponsored content. I could sort of contact them and say, "Yo, do you want to do a video? I've got a engine to rebuild. I need some money." And most of the time, they're up for doing a video, but I've already kind of, with most of these brands, we've gone through their product ranges and stuff like that. So like you say, it's very hit and miss. So maybe, one of these, a new polisher will come out and Roops would want to do something in the future, and that's great, but it might be another 2 years before that happens. So, yeah.
So with that, what does 2025 look for you? Like, do you plan out your content? Do you just, go in the garage and what is John feeling today? Like, or you're following the drama? What does that look like?
Yeah, I'm trying to think right now. I always work off a list and try and build that list up of really like hot videos. So I'm thinking I need to do a 2025 detail spray, and I'm going through and I'm buying up all these detail sprays at the moment. That's going to consume a big chunk of the first part of 2025 doing that, and I'll break it down into heats. I want to do some more practical detailing stuff as well. So I've got a list of some videos sort of the tutorial side stuff to get done. I'm always keeping my ear to the ground for new products. So I've been waiting for these products from Pan. I've been waiting for the heat to die down on that because there was so much drama, and it was just, I didn't want to go near it while there's all that drama. And there's like, you've got one side that are going to want to buy the products to support, you know, Pan, which is fine. Then you've got the other side, which you're going to want to stick the boot in. And it's just going to be one big, like, free for all, you know, kind of fight, almost an online fight. And I thought, well, let's just steer clear of that one. And they've only just hit the UK, and all the drama's died down now. So there's no like pressure, like the word that Matt used. So I could just go buy it and creep in, you know, and just give. And
people are probably dying to hear your opinion on it, right? I mean,
well, I had a lot of people asking actually if I could review it. But yeah, it's difficult. But I'm interested as well, actually. I'm just interested to see if this stuff is really good. I know there's a big drama about whether it's the best on the market. I didn't think that's a drama. I didn't think that was a drama at all. I think, you know, that's just what, you know, all brands are going to say their products are the best. That's
of
fine.
Course. Like, wouldn't you? Here's the thing that people don't understand, too. It's like, don't you want him to say that? Like, what do you expect him to say? Like, oh, these are actually pretty mediocre. Like, these are mediocre products at like a little bit higher than average prices. But, you know,
you're not going to say that. Oh, you're going to say they're the best.
That'd be crazy, right? Now, doing an award show about it and putting yours as #1, that was probably a mistake. Obviously, it was a mistake. He took the video down, right? But
I think Pan's going to go through a similar process, and you're probably a bit further down the line of just tweaking the channel. Tweaking what you're doing.
You can see him doing it now. He's struggling. You know, it's very obvious he's struggling with his channel, but it's incredibly difficult. Like, people don't realize how difficult it is to transition your channel. And he's got a sizable audience, and he's built a sizable audience under the premise of doing product reviews. And so now he's got to completely shift his channel. And he's probably going to lose a lot of followers, and he's probably going to gain a lot of new followers.
I don't think you'll lose followers. I don't think you'll.
Not a lot, not noticeable.
One thing about Pan is he works hard.
Sure.
Like, I work hard, and I put a lot into my channel, but I reckon he probably works about twice as hard as I do, which is hard to appreciate. But all the things he does, like the thumbnails are all good on point. The videos are a bit more well prepared. They're a bit more friendly. They're a bit better filmed. Everything's just done to a slightly higher quality, and that pays dividends. But underneath all of that is hard work. So I think he'll be fine, absolutely fine. But yeah, there is a slowdown. I'm noticing an across the board slowdown of detailing content. Less people in the UK doing it. There's very few channels in the UK now. It's really slowing down. Loads of channels in America. But yeah, it's very, 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 very difficult times.
Yeah. It is difficult. It's hard, but that's also what is gonna, I think, that there's where it brings in the opportunity, you know. For my product brand, that's where I see, I'm like, well, slow down. You know, we haven't seen really any innovation from Turtle Wax, who was on fire. McGuire's innovation has been lacking for a long time, and that's where we see the rise of DIY Detail, my product brand, these other little kind of indie brands, just like we saw with, you know, as shopping malls and big super stores kind of lose favor and these boutique brands start to pop up or whatever, and they, you know, start nipping at the heels of these big dogs. That's kind of what it's finally just trickled down to the detailing space, right? In the product brand space.
The battleground now for all of this industry is going to be social media for the next 5 to 10 years. And I think what you're getting now is brands are going to get much more adept at targeting social media. More of them are going to do it. Actually, it's amazed me. There must be about 500 to 1,000 brands out there, detailing brands. How many are actively targeting social media with content that they produce?
Not a lot.
Tiny percentage, isn't it? And succeeding. And if
even smaller.
I mean, very few are actually doing it. And like Chemical Guys were the first ones to do it. And you think, why didn't everyone else just jump on that bandwagon and do what they did? Only a handful do. And I think the reason is it's not easy, actually. You need someone that's friendly, can talk to the camera, has a passion for detailing, and could do all this stuff and give you the knowledge. And a lot of brands, they don't have someone in their company that can stand in front of a camera and give you really good quality information that's actually going to sell their products.
Totally. And we've all seen the brands that try to hire someone that it doesn't work,
no,
right? Where it's like, that guy doesn't have it, right? That guy's not it.
And if he does have it, he'll go and on his own sooner or later when he realizes.
Totally, which is even harder. Yeah, because it's like, yes, totally. But then on that front, not everyone has the resources, right? Like not to keep bringing him up, but Pan isn't shipping any of his own stuff. Why? He's in Canada. It would be insane to like get it made in the US, shipped up to Canada, and then him ship it out from Canada, right? So not everyone has the same resources either. Yeah. You know what I mean?
But I talked about this. I've just finished filming the video and I talked about this. That has a positive side, all this outsourcing stuff, a real positive. If you're a small business, the more you outsource, the more free you are to focus on your social media. So that model works for Pan. But the downside is everything you outsource, you're not outsourcing at cost. You're outsourcing as a profitable service for another business.
Yes.
So your customers are having to pay the profit that those businesses are charging in addition to the profit you're making on your product. So then the cost of the product goes through the roof. That's the downside with this outsourced model. And I talked about it in the video. And I think long term, companies like Pan and DIY Detail and those companies that are doing that model, so you focus on your social media, outsource everything else, long term, they will have to bring that in. And if they can bring it in, then they can compete price-wise. But at the moment, my biggest problem with these brands that are doing that is they're not competitive price-wise at all.
And you lose touch. There's a lot of touch points and a lot of surprise and delight opportunities. That's why I do it in-house. There's a lot of surprise and delight opportunities that you can do with throwing extras in the box, taking care of a customer, and also speed. We see it always gets blamed of, we ran a sale and we have a ton of orders, and so we're backed up at the warehouse. To me, it's like if you're using a third-party company to ship out your orders that can't deal with your big weekend sale, you're at the wrong fulfillment house, first of all, right? But second of all, you lose a lot of time in that because they have a lot of other brands that they're dealing with too. So there's a lot of customer service touch points, I think, that you lose by having a 3PL or a fulfillment center that will force them to eventually, like to your point, bring that back in-house, because you as a brand, you get tired of making up excuses of why something happened or didn't happen, right?
Yeah.
And frankly, it's just out of your control.
Yeah. So I think they'll want to bring more in-house later on, but it's good in a way. The downside as well is that it might be, you've got to look at what you're buying into as a customer. And I want to see the brands doing this stuff.
Yeah.
I don't care so much. I buy into all of the quality of the products with the brands, because I don't think any brands are going to try and sell us bad quality products. That doesn't really go on. That's your eBay sellers watering stuff down,
right.
But a quality detailing brand will always give us good stuff. But you want to buy into a little bit more than all this outsourced model. And that's the thing that they've got to try and solve long term to get that repeat business. But I'm sure they'll do it. They're smarter guys than me. But at the moment, from a review perspective, some of those products just aren't competitive. In fact, the opposite of not being competitive. What was the previous benchmark in the UK of being very expensive, and people were moaning about being kind of like a rip-off and it's too expensive? Their stuff is like 2 or 3 times the price of that. And so it's very hard to skirt around that as a review. There's no easy way of me saying that. But
let's take a water-based ceramic spray. Where does that need to be price-wise in the UK to be competitive? Like a 16 ounce.
If it's a sealant and it's giving you sort of 3 to 6 months durability, it would be nice if it was less than 20 quid for 16 ounces. But below 25 would probably be acceptable.
Okay, which would be about $30 US.
Yeah.
Right about there. Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, it's hard to say. People will pay north of £20. So some of those products are actually okay price wise. They're not that bad, but because the spray wax, if you like, or the spray sealant has replaced the tub of wax, the market was already comfortable paying 20 to 40 pounds for a tin of wax. So it's now comfortable paying 20 to 40 pounds or 20 to 30 pounds for a good spray sealant. Yeah, but difficult. I think the detergent costs of the American stuff that comes over is really high. We can get very good detergents and cleaners in the UK for a very small amount of money, you know, like 5 litres, which is a US gallon and a bit, half maybe, you know, we could get for like, you know, £20 easily, and it's good quality stuff. And then some of this stuff is like £100 for 5 litres, and you're thinking, I could have, you know, that's 5 times the price, bulk price. So yeah, it's difficult to sell.
I have found as a brand though, sometimes being priced high is actually a strategy. It's just a thought, you know, but sometimes you get, like, I just released an interior cleaner and I tried to price it really competitively and it's getting really good traction, but I almost wish that I would have priced it higher, just so people, because I'm having no one complain about the price, right, at all, because I priced it really competitively. But I have people complain about the price of my other stuff. But it's almost a strategy in and of itself to price it high. I'm not saying it's a good strategy. I'm just saying it's a strategy.
I don't know. I really don't know. I see it that you've got more chance of going viral if people feel like it's a really powerful product. It's also really good value. But that might be more true of the UK market, because we just love a bargain. We love a bargain. If something's cheap and it's really powerful and it's good, like, we'll buy it, and we'll buy loads of it.
Yeah. All right. Well, we've gone almost an hour and a half. Is there anything we haven't talked about that? Yeah, I know it's been great. I really appreciate it. I had a feeling this was going to be fun, but I would really like to do this more often with you, because it really was I felt like having a conversation, really fun. But is there anything?
I've enjoyed it as well.
Good. Is there anything in this conversation that we haven't talked about that you were like, man, I really want to make sure we talk about that?
The importance of American people subscribing to the Forensics Detailing channel is the only thing that I haven't covered in this video.
If there's anyone listening that isn't subscribed to your channel, what a shame that would be.
I should have mentioned that at the start. I'm getting sloppy with that.
You need to button that up a little bit. Get a little more selfless, you know, shameless promotion.
Shameless promotion, yeah.
There's 2 things I love more than anything in the world, and it's going on tangents and shameless plugs, you know. So Forensic Detailing on YouTube, is that the best place for people to find you? And the rest of the venues I don't really do much on there, so YouTube is the one. And second to that, they should support your Patreon, right?
Oh, can do, yeah. I mean, if there's money going spare, then head over to my Patreon page. But just subscribe will do for me, because that's what it's all about, isn't it? And it's been great to talk, Jim, and what you're doing here with this podcast, bringing people together, talking about all this stuff is what it's all about as well, you know. And so it's been fun.
Well, I really appreciate you. You know, I appreciate guests like you, you know, willing to do it and spend a couple hours of your day doing it, because it would be, you know, pretty boring if it was just me here talking. In fact, I've tried it and people don't like it as much as they do when there's 2 of us. So I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day schedule, and I think it's good for the industry, but it's good for us, right? More than anything. And I really have enjoyed it. So I'll cut the recording here, but John, thanks for doing this, and everyone go subscribe to John's channel and his Patreon. Dang it.